I'm 74 years old. For almost 50 years, I was a priest. I stood at the front of a church every Sunday. I spoke about love. I spoke about forgiveness. I told people to open their hearts. I told them to let go of their anger. Thousands of people listened to me. They trusted me. They believed I knew the way. But I have to tell you something now, while I still have time, and I do not have much time left. I preached love, but I lived with hate inside me. For all those years, I carried something dark in my chest. A bitterness I never spoke about, a wound I never healed. I told other people to forgive, and I could not forgive one person in my own life. I told other people to let go, and my hands were closed into fists every single night. I was a fraud, not in my faith, in my heart. And the worst part is this, I thought I had time. I always thought there would be a tomorrow to fix it, a day when I would finally deal with the thing I was hiding, a day when I would become the man I pretended to be. I kept saying, later, I will face it later. But later never came. Now I'm sitting here, an old man, and the body that carried me for 74 years is starting to give up. The doctor's voice was very quiet when he spoke to me last month. And in that quiet, I finally understood something I had ignored my whole life. You do not get a warning. You think you do. You think life will tap you on the shoulder and say, it is time now, fix your heart. But it does not work that way. One day you are strong. The next day you are counting the mornings you have left. So before I run out of time, I want to tell you the whole truth. Not the sermon version. Not the polished version I gave from the altar. The real one. Because if you are watching this, you may be carrying something too. Something heavy, something you keep promising to deal with someday. A grudge, a regret, a person you refuse to forgive. A part of yourself you hide from everyone, even from the people who love you most. And you are telling yourself the same lie I told myself for 50 years. You are telling yourself, I have time. You are wrong. I was wrong too. Let me take you back to the beginning when I was young and full of belief. When I first put on the collar and stood before God and promised to give my life to love. I want you to see how a man can build a beautiful life on the outside while something rots quietly on the inside. I want you to see exactly how the hate got in and why I let it stay. Because I did not start out this way. No one does. The hate did not arrive all at once. It came slowly through a door I left open on a single ordinary day. A day I did not even notice at the time. And that day changed everything. I was 25 when I became a priest. I remember the day clearly. The church was full. My mother was crying in the front row. My younger brother stood beside her, smiling at me with so much pride that I had to look away. His name was Daniel. Remember that name? He matters more to this story than anyone. Daniel and I grew up with almost nothing. Our father drank. Our mother worked until her hands bled. But the two of us had each other, and that was enough. We shared one bed as boys. We shared one dream as men. He used to say, you will save souls and I will build houses, and together we will take care of Mama. That was the plan. That was everything. For a while the plan worked. I rose quickly in the church. People liked me. I had a warm voice and a kind face, and I knew how to make a room feel held. Older priests told me I had a gift. By the time I was 40, I had my own parish. A beautiful stone church, a growing congregation. People drove from other towns just to hear me speak. From the outside, my life looked like a blessing. But here is the first crack, the one I never showed anyone. The closer I got to God in public, the further I drifted from the people in private. I was so busy being everyone's father that I stopped being anyone's brother. I missed Daniel's wedding because of a church event. I told myself it was important. I told myself God came first. I believed my own sermons, and slowly, without noticing, I began to love the idea of being good more than I loved actually being good. Do you understand the difference? Because it took me 50 years to see it. I loved the robes. I loved the respect. I loved the way people lowered their voices when I walked into a room. I loved being the man with the answers. And somewhere in all that loving of myself, I forgot the simple, ordinary people who had loved me first. Daniel kept calling. I kept being too busy. He built his houses just like he promised. He took care of our mother until the day she died. He held her hand at the end. I was not there. I was 300 miles away, giving a sermon about the importance of family. Let that sit with you for a moment. A man who could move 1,000 strangers to tears, who could not make the time for the one person who had carried him his whole life. I told myself it was fine. I told myself Daniel understood. I told myself there would be time to make it right. A holiday, a quiet weekend, a long talk by the fire, the way we used to talk as boys. I thought I had time, but the cracks were already spreading deeper than I knew, because resentment is a strange and quiet thing. It does not always grow between enemies. Sometimes it grows between two people who love each other and stop saying it out loud. It grows in the silence. It grows in the missed calls. It grows in the visits that never happen. And while I was busy preaching about love to strangers, something was breaking between me and the one man I had promised to love forever. I did not see the storm coming. I only saw it after it had already taken everything. The phone rang on a Tuesday morning. I remember because I was annoyed. I was preparing my sermon and I almost did not answer. The number was Daniel's. I had not spoken to him in 7 months. 7 months. I told myself I would call him back after I finished writing. Something made me answer. It was not Daniel. It was his wife. Her voice was strange, flat, far away. She said 3 words that broke my life in half. Daniel is gone. A heart attack. Sudden. No warning. He was 58 years old. He had been building a porch for his granddaughter that morning. He sat down to rest in the afternoon sun, closed his eyes, and never opened them again. My brother died alone in a chair, and the last real conversation we had ended with me saying I was too busy to talk. I do not remember dropping the phone. I do not remember sitting on the floor. I only remember the silence after. A silence so loud it filled the whole house. And in that silence, every excuse I had ever told myself came apart. I had time. That is what I always believed. I had a whole future stacked up with him in it. The fire, the long talk, the apology I would give someday, all of it gone in a single Tuesday morning. Later never came. I stood at his funeral, me the priest, the man who had buried hundreds of strangers and found beautiful words for every one of them. And when I opened my mouth to speak about my own brother, nothing came out. Nothing. For the first time in 50 years, I had no sermon. I looked at his coffin and I felt something I had never let myself feel before. It was not just grief. It was rage, a deep, ugly, burning hate. But here is the truth I did not understand yet. I thought I hated death for taking him. I thought I hated time for being so cruel. I was wrong. The person I hated was myself. That was the hate I had been carrying inside me for years without a name. It had been growing quietly the whole time, behind the robes and the kind voice and the Sunday smiles. I hated the man I had become. I hated that I chose applause over my own blood. I hated that I preached love to 1,000 faces while letting it die between me and the one face that mattered. And the most terrible part of standing in a church is this: you cannot lie to yourself there. Not when the coffin in front of you holds the proof of everything you got wrong. That day, something inside me broke open. The belief I had built my whole life on, that being good in public was enough, that my faith protected me from my own failures, it shattered on the cold stone floor. I went home that night and I did not pray. For the first time in 50 years, I could not. I sat in the dark and I asked myself one question, over and over: what was it all for? All the sermons, all the respect, all the beautiful words about love. What good was any of it if I could not love the people right in front of me while they were still alive to feel it? I had no answer. But in the months that followed, in the loneliest part of my life, the answer slowly began to come. And it was not the answer I'd been giving from the altar for 50 years. It was the opposite. For 50 years, I taught people that love was something you said. I was wrong. Love is not the word you speak from a stage. Love is not the sermon, the prayer, the beautiful sentence that makes a room go quiet. I built my whole life on those things, and in the end, they were empty. Because love that is only spoken is not love at all. It is performance. Here is what I learned too late. Love is not what you say. Love is what you show up for. Daniel never needed my words. He had heard 1,000 of them. What he needed was for me to answer the phone, to drive the 300 miles, to sit beside our mother and hold her other hand. He needed my time. And time was the one thing I kept promising and never gave. That is the lie. Listen to me, because I gave my whole life to this lie, and I do not want you to give yours. The lie is that the people who love you will always be there. They will not. The lie is that you can put off the apology, the visit, the phone call, the three small words, and life will politely wait for you to be ready. It will not. I told myself later for 50 years. Later I will call him. Later I will make it right. Later I will become the kind of man my own sermons described. And do you know what later turned out to be? Later was a coffin. Later was a silent house. Later was an old man crying alone in the dark, holding a phone that would never ring with his brother's voice again. Later never came. It never does. And now I have to tell you the hardest truth of all. The hate I carried, it was never really about Daniel or death or even myself. It was about the gap between the man I pretended to be and the man I actually was. Every day I stood on that stage and preached love I was not living, that gap grew wider. And the wider it grew, the more I hated standing in it. You may have that same gap. Most people do. You smile at work while something eats you alive at home. You tell your children to be honest while you hide your own heart from them. You post about gratitude while you have not called your own mother in a month. You preach your own small sermons every day, and you too are not living them. I'm not saying this to shame you. I am the last man on earth with the right to shame anyone. I am saying it because that gap is where the hate gets in. That is where the bitterness grows. Not between you and your enemies, between you and the person you keep promising to become. And the only way to close that gap is not with bigger words. It is with smaller actions. A phone call you keep avoiding. A door you keep closed. A name you have not said out loud in years. Stop preaching your love. Start showing it. Today. While the person can still hear you. While the hand you want to hold is still warm. Because I promise you, with everything I have left, the day will come when you would give anything, your money, your pride, your reputation, every beautiful word you ever spoke, for just 5 more ordinary minutes with someone you thought you still had time to love. I would give all of mine. But mine are gone, so now I sit here, 74 years old, and I speak to you, not as a priest. The collar means nothing to me now. I speak to you as a dying man who got the most important thing in life completely wrong and who has one chance left to stop you from doing the same. Hear me. There is someone in your life right now. You know who it is. The moment I said it, a face appeared in your mind. A person you have been meaning to call. A person you are angry with. A person you love but have not told. A door that has been closed for too long between you and someone whose voice you would recognize anywhere. You are telling yourself you will deal with it someday. When things calm down, when you are less busy, when the time is right, I am begging you, do not wait for the right time. There is no right time. There is only now, and one day there will be no now left. I know this better than any man alive. I had a brother. I had a mother. I had 50 years to love them properly, and I spent those years loving the sound of my own voice instead. I thought I had time. I was wrong. Later never came. Do not make my mistake. Do you understand how fast it goes? You blink and the strong young man in the mirror is an old man with shaking hands. You blink and the people who raised you are gone. You blink and the brother who shared your bed as a child is a name on a stone. Life does not slow down to let you catch up on the love you postponed. It just keeps moving, taking people with it, whether you are ready or not. You are not promised tomorrow. Neither is the person you love. That is not a sad thought. It is the most important truth there is, because it means today still belongs to you. Right now, this very day, you still have the one thing I would trade my soul for. Time. A little of it. Enough. So use it. Pick up the phone. Say the name. Open the door. Forgive the person, not because they earned it, but because the hate is poisoning you, and I have watched what 50 years of it does to a man's heart. Tell the people you love that you love them in plain words today, while they are still warm enough to hear it. Do not be like me. Do not build a beautiful life on the outside while something quietly dies on the inside. Do not preach a love you are too proud or too busy to live. Do not save your kindness for a tomorrow that may never arrive. Because the cruelest sentence in any language is this one: I thought I had more time. I am almost out of mine now, and if my whole wasted, well-dressed, applauded life is worth anything at all, let it be worth this single warning to you. Love them now. Forgive them now. Show up now. Later never comes. Do not make my mistake.